with that selected, just tab back into texture paint mode, and now we can start painting. And we paint and soften that edge, and voila, it is gone. And this is just with a 1024 by 1024 texture on 1,000 different rolls, one texture for all of those shadows, and it looks really smooth. Okay, so yes, now let's get rid of these nasty little seams that are going on here all over the place now. And when you blur the image, it also makes those seams more prevalent and it makes more of them. But that's okay because we're going to get rid of those. And this is how. By the way, if you have a faster way or a more efficient way of doing this, please let me know. But after all of my testing and all of my baking and all of my experimentation, this is the quickest way I know how to do this. Okay, so what we want to do is with our object selected, go over to texture paint. Okay, and I'm going to change this actually to another 3D port with the texture paint mode. And this one, I'm going to leave my overlays on. We're going to go into material viewport shading and make sure scene lights and scene world, to make sure that's the same over here as well. Scene lights and scene world. Okay. I don't think that actually matters since we have a baked texture and we're actually not using our lighting. In fact, let's go ahead and just shut the light off or disable that light. Okay, so we want to use texture paint to soften those edges. And so there's a brush here called Soften specifically for doing things like this. So I'm going to select that and you can see that that brush has changed over here. And we're painting onto a single image, which is true. But right now we're painting onto placeholder. But that is not the image that's being used. So remember in our shading, we're using this Shadow Bake 1 Blur. So let's go back to texture paint and make sure that we choose Pile Shadow Bake 1 Blur from the dropdown. That's really important. So if you start painting and nothing is happening, this took me forever to figure out too because I'm a moron. But yeah, it's got to be painting onto this. Now we're using the Pile 2 UV, and that is correct because that is what we baked onto or baked using our Pile 2 UVs. So let's go back up here. And one more thing is I'm going to disable the overlays over here, but keep them on over here. And then actually, when I tab into edit mode, you can see what we have selected. And that's going to be useful for us. I'm just going to make this one a little bit bigger though. But this is going to be useful for us to see what we have selected and what we don't. So in a previous video, I told you how to select each of these using the L key. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Alt-A to deselect all of them. And let's just find one that has some, that's easy access over here. This one here. So let's do my lock to cursor again. And I save that as a quick favorite. You can find that over here in the View tab and your properties here. Lock to 3D cursor. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Lock to 3D cursor. Okay. And that is where that is. Okay, so if I hover my mouse over the object and press L, you can see it selects all linked edges, which is the whole object. But I don't actually want that because if I start smoothing out all of these, I'll show you what happens. So tab back into texture paint mode and let's just press F and then so I start smoothing out. It's getting rid of that line, but it's also getting rid of, it's smoothing the top portion here too because we have that selected. In fact, if I just keep doing that all over, then we have some really weird stuff that happens. So I don't want that. Let's undo that. But remember also in one of my other videos, if we go into face mode and then we hover over the outside and press L, then it's going to limit my selection based on my seams that I have, which just gives me the outside selection. It doesn't select the top or the bottom or the inside, which that is perfect for what we want. So with that selected, just tab back into texture paint mode, and now we can start painting. And we paint and soften that edge, and voila, it is gone. And we don't have to worry about this edge up here because it's not going to go past that. But that is only the case if you have this paint mask enabled. The paint mask enables a mask for only the faces that are selected, which of course right now are just the outside, which means none of the other objects or edges or faces are going to be able to be painted onto if I tried. So all of this stuff is not, unless I select it, which I can do by going into edit mode, pressing L, and now, of course, that's selected down here, and then I can just paint on that. Now I know this is tedious, it's manual. I wish that there was a better way. I tried so many different things. This is the fastest. And again, please, if you know a better way to do this, let me know. But I found a very fast way to do it. And again, you don't have to have this over here like this. I just like this sometimes as a guide. But basically all I'm going to do is just do L and then tab and then paint. And actually you don't even need to do tab. Control A, deselect all of them. So I can't paint anything, but then all I have to do is press L and then start painting, which is awesome. And that way I don't actually even really need this guide if you don't want the edit mode there to look at. So L, paint, L, paint. And then we just kind of move along. And that is the fastest way I've figured out how to do this. L, paint, L, paint. And see, you can actually, now it is tedious and there's quite a bit of seams here that we have to go through, but doing it like this, man, I tell you, you can just fly through them here. So it shouldn't take you maybe 20, 30 minutes, maybe even less than that. L, paint, L, paint. I saw one over here. Yeah, this one, L, paint. And you can, of course, zoom in as you need. Sometimes the ones like right on the bottom there, they're a little bit tougher to do. Got to get it at just the right angle. And that one, I'm kind of doing those at the same time. Again, you can also Shift L to deselect any of these so that you can't paint on it anymore, or you just Alt A to deselect all of them. And yeah, so I like doing it like this. This is my favorite way. Another way you can do this is, let's see, let's go up here. I know there's a lot of them kind of around this area. Yeah, so with all of these here, so basically, if you didn't want to have all this clutter with all of the other roles that don't need painting, what you can do is, and this is where you could kind of look at this as a guide, is tab into edit mode, Alt A, deselect, and we'll put our 3D cursor there and kind of get the same kind of perspective here. And then just start pressing L and hovering over them. L, 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 just all the ones that I see, and just select a whole bunch of them that you can kind of see. I'm probably going to miss some. And again, if you accidentally select something that you don't want, just Shift L. Get that, did I get that one, that one, that one? Okay, that's good for now, just for demonstration. So we've got all of these selected here, and all we have to do is Shift H to hide everything else. So everything that's not selected, and then it gets rid of the clutter. Now, you can also, so Alt H will bring everything back, but you lose your selection. So I'm just gonna do undo, undo to go back for now. You can also just start painting here. If you select a whole bunch of them, you just paint them all at the same time. But like I said, Alt or Shift H clears all that clutter. Then you can just tab and just start painting the ones that need to be painted. So all of this actually, I think, is a really quick and easy way to do, very, very tedious work. So, okay, so we've got all of those, and not this one here, and this one. Boom. Down here, did we get that? Let's just, and you don't need, it doesn't have to be the seam. I mean, if you see some, blotchiness of some, like this here, I don't know, whoa, come on. Kind of looks a little blotchy to me. Just smooth that out a little bit, you know. Kind of overkill though. I don't think we need to do that. So Alt H, but again, all of those, now everything is selected. So my suggestion actually for this, I'm gonna undo that. Do. Is that even, yeah, this is a problem I've run into, and please, if you know about this too, let me know. When you're in texture paint mode, the undos don't work the same, and I'm not sure why. So I'm gonna redo all of that because I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, if you do Alt H, then now they are all selected again. So my suggestion, something I did in one of my other videos as well, come to your mesh properties, go up to Vertex Groups, and just create a vertex group and then just name it seams or something like that. And that way, you know, if you start selecting stuff that are seams, then you can always reselect those again for whatever reason. Maybe you wanted to check to see which ones you've already done, or maybe you want to redo some things. I don't know. You got your reasons. But then you can just click assign with those selected. And that way, when you Alt H to hide and, you know, whoops, I don't want to separate those. I want to paint. All right, so and then once you have all those painted, when you press Alt H, of course, they're all going to be selected. Well, just Alt A to deselect everything and select your seams and then select so that you don't lose that selection and you can always go back. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and finish painting these seams out. I am not going to use that because I'm just going to do what I see on the screen. So I'll get in one position here like this, and then I'll just do L. Let's go back into texture paint. I don't even have to tab into edit mode to do that, so which is nice. It's really fast. So L paint, L paint. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I don't see any of those nasty seams anymore, at least not very many, because I know I'm probably going to miss some. So I might do 2 or 3 passes and we'll see how we go. Oh, but first, going to save it. Learn my mistake from last time. Save. And save another iteration here too. Okay, here we go. Oh, and Blender crashed as soon as I started painting more of these, and I'm so glad I saved. I'm so glad. I didn't want to do everything all over again. Oh, okay, here we go. Hopefully Blender will cooperate with me. Okay. Another thing too that you can note that is that these are shadows. So they're not they're going to be blended in with your actual textures. So that's going to help hide, you know, some of these seams and some of the other things. Now, your object obviously might not be like this. If you have more complex object, another way you can select these instead of just pressing L is C. So let's just go ahead and enable our overlays and then just do scroll in here. I don't want to see that 3D cursor. If I press C, you can see if I scroll, you have the selection option with the left mouse button, and then middle will deselect everything, and then right click will get out of the selection. So press C. Now let's just actually right click, Alt A, make sure everything's deselected, and press C, and just make it small enough to where it's pretty small. And all you have to do is click, and we're in face select mode, remember, and click right on that edge, and then it selects those faces on either side of that edge. That way you're sure that only those 2 faces are going to be affected when you paint. So tab back in, oh, I got to right click. If you tab and try to do other things before you right click to end or to cancel out of that C select mode, you're not going to be able to do a lot. So just make sure if something's not working, make sure you right click out of that tool there. Okay, tab and see, now we have this selected, and that works the same way. So I'm going to disable the overlays, and let's find another one. So here, let's come down here, and I don't have to tab, and all I have to do is click, and now they're selected. So then I right click and then start painting. You can see. And that way you're sure that nothing else on the toilet paper roll is affected, or whatever object you have, if you need to be very precise of where that seam is. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. If you want to see what your cursor looks like, just enable your fall off opacity, and then you can see that. And you can actually change the opacity on that to see kind of what it's going to be painting. You can change your fall off and stuff up here too, or in your tool slot, you can change all of that stuff down here. Here's all this, all these options are up here as well. Okay, I think that's good. Here's one, maybe a couple of them here. Get rid of there. But yeah, I think that's good enough for my purposes today. But you understand what's going on. That didn't take too long, 20, 25 minutes maybe. I actually don't remember when I started. But yeah, not too long. And if you get in a groove, yeah, just pop some music in or a podcast or something and go to town, and that will do it. But before I do anything, oh, let's get this one here. I can see that glaring and staring in my face. That one too. And that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to shading and make sure it's on the one that we've been painting on, which is, if we go to our tool, it's our Shadow Bake 1 Blur. So make sure in our shading, we have this one selected up here, Shadow Bake 1 Blur, image, and save a copy. And then I'm gonna put underscore seam fix, enter, and then this is 16 in RGB, that's good, and then save there. Okay, and then we're going to obviously choose that here for our baked texture, and ta-da! We now have, look at that beautimous, that is really, really, really nice, I think. I say I think, I mean, it is really, really nice. And this is just with a 1024 by 1024 texture on 1,000 different rolls, one texture for all of those shadows, and it looks really smooth. Of course, there's probably some cleanup I can do. I can already see some cleanup, but for the most part, that is looking pretty spiffy. Okay, so let's quick do the floor as well. So I'm gonna enable our floor now, and let's also enable our light. And you know, I wonder, did I? Okay, good. I just want to make sure I had the blue from the floor here. And you can see that some of that blue, some of these have that blue on there, which is good. I want that indirect lighting on our bake. Okay, good. Now we're going to do the same thing with the floor. Select the floor. We have our diffuse, but we need something to bake onto. So we're going to add in a texture, image texture, click new. It's 1024 by 1024 is fine. I'm going to say floor, enter. We don't need alpha. Okay. Let's go ahead and select that up here as well. And let's start at the bottom here. So UV map is our UV map. Okay, I think it is. This is our UV map for our floor. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's go up, and actually I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier on this one. And we're going to go 3, I think. I'm going to do simple object mode. Yeah, okay. Wireframe. Here we go. And uncheck optimal display. And there we go. We can see that we have that subdivision surface modifier, which is going to help out with our shadows on our floor. Okay, go back to shading. So we've got our subdivision surface modifier, and then up to bake. We're going to keep everything the same and come down to bake. Oh yeah, and we got to make sure that this looks good in the cycles view. And that it does. So you can see that is how our shadows are going to look. Make sure everything's selected that we need to, and our texture is selected that we're going to bake onto, and bake. Oh, I should have saved it before too. I've done a lot before without saving. So hopefully this bake will not crash Blender. Whew, didn't crash Blender. I am going to save it and then do another iteration. But actually, I did this wrong. I actually just want to bake the shadows separately than the actual floor color, which is the same thing that I'm doing for the toilet paper rolls. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Whoops. Nope. Duplicate. Shift D. Bring this all the way up to 1. Bring the saturation all the way down so that we have a completely white texture. Plug that one in. And that is what we want to bake onto. We're going to save that once more, and we're going to bake once more. We don't care about the margin because our UV map is taking up the entire square, so there is no margin. Okay, so there we go. We've got that, and I'm just going to hook that up here. And you can see that we've got our shadows now. Let's go back into the material preview. But a little pixelated, so of course what we're going to do is we're going to save this out as a copy. I'm going to just say floor shadow bake 1, enter. Change that to 16 and save. And then come over to our compositing, open that up, blur of 2, which is what we have, and go to our rendering. Make sure that we are on our render result before we press F12, and then there we go. 1024, I know our image is 1024 by 1024 anyway, but if not, you would need to change those here. Image, save a copy, and underscore blur, and RGB 16, and save. Okay, so the nice thing about this is I don't need to worry about any seams, so we are pretty much done after I open that up. Blur, ta-da! And there we go. Now we can come up here, turn off our light completely, go to our layout, and you can see our completely baked object lighting. And now we can get rid of our modifiers by our subdivision surface because we just needed those for the baking, for the floor, and for our pile. We can get rid of those, and you can see nothing changed. Everything is still smooth, as if it was high poly, but we actually are using our lower poly meshes for both the pile and the floor. But I'm going to wrap it up here. In the next video, we are going to combine all of our textures and our shadows together to create a beautiful, realistic looking pile of 1,000 toilet paper rolls. And we are almost done with the series. I might do some shorter videos explaining some problems that people might run into, but we are getting closer and closer, and I'm super excited. So stay tuned, and you'll see me over there.